I think officially I can now say good afternoon, everyone. I just checked my cell phone. It is 12:02, so I can say it's good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce our Vice President for Government Relations, Mr. Steve Sauls, who is going to introduce our keynote speaker for the lunch. Thank you.
Good afternoon, soon to be afternoon, and we're going to stay in place for a few minutes and then we'll be able to have lunch. I'll do a quick plug. I'm on the executive committee for the Southeastern Florida Regional Plan called 750, 7 counties planning for the next 50 years, including a comprehensive regional transportation plan. I encourage you to go look at 750.org, participate in that interactive site, and weigh in, and then plan to come to our summit, which is going to be January 15th at the Broward Convention Center. So it's my great privilege as a fifth-generation Floridian who loves Miami and has adopted Miami to introduce another fifth-generation Floridian from my area of the state who is one of Florida's superstars. He served 4 years in the Florida legislature and then 5 terms in the U.S. Congress. He distinguished himself there and as chairman of the Republican Policy Committee was the highest elected position for Floridian in Congress ever. He is an advocate of, as Commissioner of Agriculture, that's important for all of us in terms of the sustainability of our food supply, our water supply, consumer practices. The cabinet in Florida is unique, and the cabinet with the governor presides over a whole range of public policy issues which are critical to our state and the future of our state. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Florida's Agriculture Commissioner, Adam H. Putnam. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you. I saw some eyebrows go up when he said the Ag Commissioner's speaking to us. What the hell's that guy doing here? What's he got to contribute to this deal? And to add insult to injury, we got to wait on him for lunch. So I'll be brief, I promise. And it's nice to see the asphalt guys and the concrete guys in the same room. I feel like I'm at a Middle East Peace Summit. I think that might be easier if I were in the Middle East Peace Summit. I just want to share a few thoughts with you on the sustainability piece, which is a big part of what we do in the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Commissioner of Agriculture in Florida is a statewide elected part of the cabinet. And so over the last couple of years, our role has changed a great deal because of changes made by the legislature, where we have a much greater role in water policy, and the state's energy office is now in the department as well. And as I was sort of thinking through the remarks for today, I was struck by the irony of the sustainability piece and the struggle between sustainability and infrastructure, given that one of the major challenges we face in funding infrastructure is a direct result that we've gotten a whole lot more efficient and a whole lot more sustainable in terms of fuel economy. And so there's a model out there for success. I mean, I know the bulk of this is focused on materials design, but when you really look at fuel efficiency and economy and technology and how it has changed your world and our world and the consumer's world, and then what new public policy challenges that brings about in terms of paying for new roads and bridges and infrastructure improvements, because people are, driving longer and more miles and tearing up more and paying a lot less to fix it. And so I wish that I'd been here to hear what the Secretary had to say about that. I hope he unveiled some great new, bold financing mechanism for the state of Florida, because clearly infrastructure is something that we desperately need to stay on top of, not just in Florida but around the country. On the sustainability piece, we live in a state that really, because of our high mobility, because people are all here from other places, there's not a great sense of Floridians' identity. Most people who live in Florida came here from someplace else, and they really don't view these problems as being their problem. For many people who live in Florida, or at least according to their CPA, make Florida their home, it is a prize. Florida is a reward for a life well lived someplace else. And they don't want to be bothered by infrastructure investments, and they don't want to be bothered by education policy, and they don't want to be bothered by water policy. They worried about that in Ohio and Michigan and New Jersey and New York and places all over the world. So that's not really something that they want to focus on. As policymakers, we have to focus on that, because in a state where our identity is not necessarily broadly shared because of that high turnover, I would argue that the root of our economic success and what makes us a draw for visitors and retirees and as a home for businesses and visitors from around the world is the fact that we have a high quality of life that's directly connected to our natural resources, specifically water. I have been preaching for 3 years the biggest long-term issue facing Florida. Long-term, the biggest issue is water policy, because our economic engines, tourism, construction of any kind, residential or commercial or infrastructure, the whole building industry, agriculture, those three economic drivers are inseparable from water policy. Whether we're going to be able to have access to new mines in the Dade Lake Belt to get material, inseparable from water considerations. This is no longer just a regional fight. Every area of the state is now engaged in some level of conflict over water. It's not just the Tampa Bay water wars. It's not just Lake Okeechobee. It's not just the Caloosahatchee or the St. Lucie. Every corner of the state is now engaged in some type of a water conflict. The small town of Apalachicola, home of the Florida oyster in Apalachicola Bay in the Panhandle, complete economic devastation brought about by a breakdown in water policy and inadequate flows of fresh water coming from the state of Georgia. And so it's inseparable to think about economic success without getting sustainability right. And so that's something that we continue to focus on. And from the position of statewide leadership, we have to look at what's going on in the transportation sector and how that's going to shape our state in terms of marrying up the issues impacting infrastructure and the issues impacting sustainability. And obviously the thing that everybody's talking about from Chamber of Commerce executives to the governor is, what does the expansion of the Panama Canal mean for a state like Florida? And how does that ripple throughout the transportation infrastructure, not just in our ports? What does that mean? And it's remarkable how this revolution in global logistics is going to affect every corner of society. Miami, obviously, because of the commitments of the state, is going to be the southernmost port in the United States positioned to handle those deeper draft ships, which has in turn led to an investment in the tunnel, which has led to a series of investments around the state, public and private, but mostly private in terms of intermodal facilities, upgrades to bypass major metropolitan areas with surface freight transportation. We're seeing an extraordinary new investment in rail. And so throughout the transportation world in the state of Florida, we're seeing remarkable new investments really stemming from what the flow of goods and the impact that they're going to have in the state of Florida. The challenge on that, when you look at those ships, either the actual post-Panamax ships or the repackaged smaller ships coming in, what are they going to put back on those so that they're not deadheading in a state that really isn't known for manufacturing? And as it stands right now, some of the early indications are, as evidenced by two major rail announcements on the Perishable Express, FreshX and RailX, the work of the Port of Miami to relocate the cut flower business to the interior to make more room for produce and other fresh items, is they're going to start with perishables. They're going to start with the fact that the state of Florida is producing agricultural commodities at a particular time of the year that nobody else in the world is producing. From there, we need to diversify the economy and have the type of manufacturing so that when they unload all the flat screen TVs from Asia, we're going to put not just American-made, but Florida-made products on there that are going to continue to spur investment in infrastructure and throughout the economy in the state as a result of that. But that clearly is the game-changing force that's driving public policy decisions in Tallahassee, that's driving funding decisions in Tallahassee, and how those things are connected to that once in a mini lifetime opportunity in terms of changes in the logistics business is going to have a profound effect on transportation investment.